Hello, my name is Christoph Wichmann, and in this video I would like to explain how you can register OData services, OData APIs into the Axway API management platform. For that we are using the API management CLI, which allows me to convert OData service specifications into a standard OpenAPI 3 API specification. So to register an OData service, you put an API configuration in place, which looks the same as for any other API. The difference is that you say that the API specification is a resource pointing to an OData service specification. And all the rest is standard API desired configuration. I'm also putting here that a custom property, which I called OData API, and I put it to true because this controls a policy toggle, which I will explain a little bit later. I named that API the OData version 2 Northwind API. I put it on a certain path and so on. All this is pretty basic for API management CLI API import. So in the next thing I'm doing is now to import that API into my stage demo with that API configuration. And now you can see that the API management CLI has detected an OData V2 specification that is automatically converted into an OpenAPI 3 specification. And it has successfully created now that API on the platform. So if I go into the API developer portal, I can now see that OData API, and I can explore it based on the OpenAPI specification like for any other API. Now, this might not be the desired thing or what you want to make, let's say, all the entity types that are part of the metadata specification, part of your generated API specification. And maybe you also do not want to have all the possible HTTP operations part of the API spec. And you can filter that API specification now, and not only OData, you can also filter other API specification. And you do this by saying, I would like to add a filter to that API spec. And here you can say, I would like to include some things, or you can define what you would like to have excluded from the exclude, difficult word, exclude. And for each, you can include or exclude something, maybe based on the tags, and say, for the OData specification, I would like to have a list of tags included that is for customers, that is for, that is for orders, and it matters, of course, and this is for products. So these tags are OpenAPI specification tags. I'm talking about this one here, employees, orders, and so on. So that means out of these tags generated that are based on the OData entities, I would like to filter some of them. And I also do not want to have included some delete operations. And for that, I can say for all paths, I would like to exclude the delete operation out of the generated API specification. So if I now run the API management CLI again, then the API specification, which is generated, is filtered. If you do it right, I forgot to make this also an array, of course. So let's see. And now we see that the API specification, which has been generated before, has been successfully filtered. And again, you can also do this for all other OpenAPI or Swagger specification. If you do not have control over that API specification, you can filter them as well with the same instructions. If I now check for that API, again, the OData API, then you can see that we have only orders, products, and customers, and we have no delete operations anymore. And now you can use that API and say, give me all orders with the top of only 10 of them. And now I get that 10. And for instance, we have this order ID here. And now let's say, give me the orders with that order ID. and the expand navigational properties if I would like to see the customer of that order, and maybe I also would like to see the shipper of that order. And yeah, let's run it. And now we see that the customer is included and the shipper is included as at least as an endpoint. No, not only as an endpoint, company name and so on. And additionally, I can also now say, give me only the order date, give me the customer ID, and so on. So that means all that standard OData expand and select properties are automatically generated into the OData specification that has been generated. So, and now I'm going to show how that looks at runtime, because maybe you have noted that at each of these endpoints there is a star, and that's because of that navigational properties, because they are, let's say, sometimes they are not always present. And the API gateway at runtime is very strict, and without that star, you wouldn't get a match if you use a navigational property. And that's why you have to put in place that an OData routing policy, which is also recommended here. You need to use an OData routing policy for this API, and then it's pointing to a GitHub location where you get that API with a scripting filter as an example. And I have also made this configurable using that custom property you saw. And that's why now that custom property is used at runtime in my OData routing policy. It's asking, or it's checking if this is an OData policy or OData API based on that toggle. And if so, then that scripting filter will reduce the star and perhaps do a few things more. Ultimately, the backend call is then changed, that it has no longer that star here as part of the backend base path. And then you get a normal response back. So, and last thing I would like to show is how you can do the same thing also with maybe an SAP API. I have registered, or I have downloaded an SAP master data version 2 OData specification, which is this one here. And also here I have configured a few filters. The difference here is between that Northwind API and that SAP API, that first of all, the SAP is using some extra annotations that are honored by the API management CLI when the specification model is generated. And also it contains a function. And so that means it's not only about the entities, it also has some functional endpoints. This one here, for instance, I think that's the only one. So let me register that API as well by going into that folder config and then run the import with that API config file. So, and now check for that API, which is this one here, of course. And now this one is also, let's say, as I wanted to have, because I had some filters for address, contact person, and address information. But I also do have that service operation, which is here getting some extra parameters like template name, language code, data subject name, and so on. So that means everything that is defined, of course, in the OData service description become now part of the OpenAPI specification. And of course, that OpenAPI specification becomes available for your developers, for your partners, for your consumers to integrate with that API easily. Of course, the description I can also change and say the description type should be of that API, and my SAP master data API. And I think there is also a description type, which must be manual, I believe. Manual, yeah, manual. So let's see if this overrides the description, because the standard description is basically generated, of course, out of the description can be null, description type set to manual. Okay, description manual. Let's do this and try it again. So that means now you can also dynamically set a proper description of that API. And of course, a summary. It's also not a summary set here, which will appear in the overview. But now I have a proper description of my API, which gives me full flexibility. So that's all I wanted to show in this video. And in one of the next versions, it will also be possible to filter the generated models, because now in that case, they doesn't really make sense anymore to that few reduced methods. And it will also be possible in one of the next versions to convert OData version 4 service description into an OpenAPI specification in the same way. I hope this video was useful to you, and thank you.